Hi everyone, it's Mr. Knight here, the head of geography. Um, what I'm going to talk about today is the year 11 to 12 transition level, so i.e. the lesson and the work that you've been set going from GCSE to A level. Fortunately for you, this will be the only slide that you're going to see my face on, because I think that might become a little bit of a distraction. But the idea behind this is you've been set the work in previous weeks, and I'm just going to go through each of the slides and give you a little bit more information, which hopefully you'll find useful to you and help you answer many of the questions set, and also put your mind at rest as to what you're going to be doing when you come back to do your A levels in the autumn term.
Okay, so how are you going to use this work? Well, I've split the work into three kind of sections, the PowerPoint, if you like, in three sections. First of all, I'm going to talk just generally about the course. Yes, I put some information on there, but it might not make sense to some of you, so hopefully I'll answer some questions and how you can get prepared for the course in the autumn term. And then there's two different sections of work that's been set for you, one by myself, the change of place unit, and another by Miss Richardson, the glaciation unit. So again, go over those activities and what's expected from you. So help make things a little bit easier for you if you're struggling doing this work. Okay, the exam board we use to study A-level geography is the WJC EDUCAS exam board. They only have one specification. You can type this WJC EDUCAS geography A-level into Google and it will bring up the exam specification, which goes through basically what it is that we need to teach you and how we break down like units and so on. I've simplified it a bit here. So you can see in year 12, we study 4 units of work that cover aspects of both human and physical geography. Glaciated landscapes part of the what we call component 1, as it changing places, so there's compulsory units, and we also go on to look at part of the global systems unit, which is carbon and water cycle, and an optional unit, which is ecosystems, and that's covered in component 3. In year 13, and also in the summer of year 12, you will be asked to do a 4,000 word independent investigation, and the clue is in the words independent. It is basically a piece of fieldwork research that you do and you write up. So it covers the 6 stages of the inquiry process. You do get given some guidance in lesson time. There's a limit of how much we can actually guide you on that. So throughout the beginning of year 13 and summer between year 12 and 13, you are given guidance on that, and that's worth 20% of the marks. The majority of the time, though, is taken up again studying the further units. How you're going to be taught, you can read through that. It's pretty self-explanatory. But I would say this, and I'll refer to it again a little bit later on. You're going to be working in smaller groups, and therefore there's going to be much more expectation on you getting involved in the lesson, much more debating, much more question and answer sessions, and also on top of that, outside of the lesson, there'll be a greater expectation on you to go about and do the wider research. Again, I'll talk more about that later on. So how you're assessed at A level, well, you have 3 exams based on these 3 components, which is worth 80% in total. You can see the breakdowns here of what each component is worth and how long the written exam paper is. 1 and 2, we have to do all of this. In section component 3, at Countersort, we study ecosystems and energy challenges and dilemmas. 20% of the marks is to do with your independent investigation that you must submit and goes off to the exam board. Okay, so it's first lesson back after the summer break, and obviously after the extended break that we've had as a result of the coronavirus. But what are you going to need then? What do you need for the start of the year? Well, you will need to bring in 2 folders together with the necessary equipment, because you'll be writing on line paper and you'll be responsible for looking after those folders. I don't keep the folders in school. You take them home because you need to refer to the notes, and therefore it's really important you kind of organised and make sure you do things like date every piece of paper, have an order to which, where you file things in a date order, so it makes sense when you come back to revise from that or use it to do an extended piece of writing. I think the things that you could also do is I would strongly recommend you buy a student guide. Now, a student guide is a small textbook that gives you lots of information, lots of practice questions, lots of exemplar answers to do with that element of the course. Unfortunately, WJC Educast do not produce one textbook for the whole of the course. They break them up into the different topics, if you like, of the different components. So there is, for the first unit that we're going to be looking at, the first part of component 1, changing places, there is a changing places book that I put on here, the title of it and the ISBN number. There'll be the same for glaciation. Hodder Education is the publisher that publishes those books. So if you go into Hodder, you'll be able to find these, but also you can use your ISBN numbers or kind of do a search on Amazon. I also recommend you buying a revision guide that's specific to this exam board, because again, that provides you lots of key words, lots of practice exam questions, and gives you kind of more simplified breakdown of what it is you need to do. It's all good revision guides should do. So what do you definitely need? Well, the things I talked about in the previous slide were things that you do need in order to record what you've learned, in order to find out information, but that's of no use if you don't have the kind of correct mindset. So these 4 bullet points here indicate the correct kind of mindset that you must have in order to be successful, because we all want you to do as well as possible. I'm not going to read through those too much. I think it's self-explanatory, but it's really important, as I've highlighted in the Be Resilient, that you are going to find the demands of A-level, you are going to find it more challenging than the GCSE. It's a big step up, but it doesn't mean to say you can't overcome them, and it doesn't mean to say you're going to overcome them necessarily straight away. But just by working with your teacher, it's a much more mature conversation you're having with your teacher. I've had lots of A-level students come back to me and say, I don't quite understand this, can you help me out? They've either emailed me, but they've kept in touch, or I'm struggling this particular moment of time because this is happening at home, or whatever. Just keep in touch. We're there to help you, and like I said, together we can overcome these challenges, and that's what being resilient is all about, kind of being proactive. So as you're already aware, both myself and Miss Richardson set you some transition work for summer term, and this slide's really just saying, look, if you've got any problems, email either myself or Miss Richardson. What I have done is today, so that's on June the 16th, I put on show my homework, another copy of the Pixel Year 11 to 12 transition booklet, which is the work that I want you to do for Miss Richardson, which is to do with glaciation. The work that I want you to do for me, I'm going to go through in a moment. So when you come back, whichever teacher you do have, one of those units that you'll be doing is changing places. This is a fantastic unit. It really is, the clue is in the title. It's all about places. So that could be very large places in terms of size, or very varied places. So, for example, cities, or it could be smaller places like villages. But we'll basically look at how places, particularly in the UK, have changed, and the geographic, socio-economic, and political reasons for that, and also the economic, and also the effects of that. So this is a little picture here just to kind of get you to think. And the reason I chose this is one of Ravenscraig steelworks. It was the largest steelworks in Europe at one point, and this was located in a town called Motherwell up in Scotland, in the central belt of Scotland. Now I could easily locate it on a map. I can tell you lots about it. I know this place well, but it's a place that's gone significant change over the last century, and there are reasons behind that, and there are effects of it. It's how it has a geographical impact, and we will use Motherwell as many other kind of examples of places to see how places are changing, both here in the UK and sometimes around the world. So to get us to think about why it's important we understand place rather than just doing it, there's an article I've attached, to show my homework. If you can't get access to that, do email me and I'll email it a copy of you. Sorry, I will send you a copy again, or email you a copy, or put another copy and show my homework. But this article comes from a periodical called Geography Review. It's a quarterly, meaning it's published 4 times a year, and you can read through those, and there's a catalogue of those both on the S drive, but also you can go to the library and ask the librarian, and there's a place where you can find them. But yeah, really good articles to get you to understand the underlying reasons why we need to study place. So before you attempt the work on place I've set you for this transition work, I just wanted you to understand 3 kind of key words, and that's location, locale, and sense of place. So yeah, read through this slide. It will make sense then what you need to do for the next slide. So this slide shows the definitions, location, locale, and sense of place. You can see sense of place is based on emotion and different people's experiences of a place. So therefore, people can look at a place through very different eyes and have a identify it in a different way. Whereas the location is fixed, it's factual, unlike sense of place. So for this activity, I just want you to look at the descriptions. Which of these descriptions represents the locale of place, which one represents location, and which one represents sense of place? And just write those down. And here are the answers. And as you can see, location is referring to places in terms of where they are in relation to other places, or where they are on a fixed point on a map, or where they are in terms of physical characteristics, such as the low-lying sunset levels. Locale, as you can see there, talks about Glastonbury having its own character, where sense of place is how people, the kind of significance people attach to that place. Okay, these next 2 slides are to do with quite a time-consuming but very worthwhile activity. And the idea behind me setting this is I want you to understand it's really important. You have to do lots of independent research at A-level. Now, I've given you a head start here. I've given you some useful websites, but it doesn't mean to say you can't use your own, find out some of your own information. For example, the police.co.uk website is a really good one to find out information as well about crime, for example, in an area. But the idea is that you research a place that you are familiar with, whether it be Leicester or Council as part of Leicestershire, and I want to report more on that in a moment, that covers these, what should be 6 different characteristics of a place I want you to comment on. So you're going to write a 600-word summary of your chosen place based on these 6 different categories, if you like. The reason I only want it to be 600 words approximately is I want you to consider carefully what you are going to select to help us get an understanding of that place and a sense of that place. Don't worry if you can't find information out about such things as slope angle, because that can be quite difficult. For example, if you're looking at counter slope, it's not really that relevant. It's not on the side of a hill or a significant hill, for example, so it's less relevant. Whereas more relevant is, for example, the socioeconomic makeup of the place in terms of levels of employment, the categories of jobs that people are working in, their level of income, the demography, which means the makeup of the population in terms of number or ethnicity or gender. So the previous activity was a research activity to get you familiar with the concept of place. I also want you to have the concept of change, the change, if you like, how places change. And in order to do that, you need to know where certain places are in the UK, because we often refer to them and expect you to know where they are. If you can visualize where they are, it will really help. And also be able to refer to these places and what kind of pattern of change that they have been kind of characterized by. So I talk about being able to visualize where places are. At GCSE Geography, you can get through GCSE Geography without knowing a lot about where certain places are in the UK. You can't do the same in this unit of work. You need to be able to visualise and understand where they are so you can recollect them and use them as examples in your exam. So this first activity, I just want to label the regions there, 1 to 12. I should say 1 to 12 here, so rather than 1 to 11. Because I want to be able to point to a map in a lesson, and you can say, okay, for example, number 1, I'll give you that one, is Scotland. There's number 9 is the Southwest region. So please complete that, please. As well as understanding the broader regions, I want you to understand some of where the location of some of the places we specifically refer to in specific lessons. So we do refer to Glasgow. We do refer to the King's Cross areas of London. We do refer to Manchester and to Cambridge. And can you identify where they are on the map? Because if you can, you've got that as a record, and you can use this map as a study aid for when you're revising about what you associate that place with being and having, and how change that it's undergone. Okay, as well as about understanding about where places are located, we need to understand about how they changed. And Rostow was one such geographer that tried to model how places, particularly countries, change over a period of time. As you can see, he said that countries go from traditional societies through to one of high mass consumption. And what does that mean for a particular place? Well, it'll impact on where people live, whether they live in rural areas, which is in traditional society, or urban areas. If it's a country which is at the high mass consumption stage, it'll indicate something about the wealth of that nation, how developed that nation is, and so on. And he's just one such modeler that helps geographers understand how places change and the impact it would have, and therefore can be used as a predictive tool as well. Attempt the questions, have a go, do some internet research. I've purposely not given you any web links to that because you should be able to go onto YouTube or to type into a Google search Rostow's model, and it will explain how Rostow's model works. So, places in the UK have undergone economic change. These are some of the places that we look at in the Change of Places unit at Countersthorpe. Okay, I want you to identify, you've identified them on the map, I should say. Now I want you to match up which industries they're associated with traditionally. These are the traditional industries that would form, would be a character of that place, which many people would be employed in those industries, and therefore, again, affect the characteristics of that place. Just match them up. You can draw lines to each other. Kind of like, so for example, Leicestershire, was it associated with hosiery, or was it associated with shipbuilding, or more than one? Just draw lines. So again, you can use this as a reference point for your exams. Okay, the other part of component 1 is to look at changing landscapes, which we study glaciation. Miss Richardson is the person that normally delivers this unit of work, but it might not necessarily be the case in the autumn term. That's not been decided yet. However, the work that has been set for you is work that I'm going to talk through in a moment. So the work that has been set for you is not being set on these slides. It's being set by an organisation called Pixel, which produced the transition work for schools. And I have attached on Show My Homework, even today, the Pixel 11 to 12 transition booklet. So you will see it at the bottom as a attachment. If you can't see that attachment, please email either myself or Miss Richardson, and we will email you directly that attachment. But it has been put on Show My Homework as recently as Tuesday the 16th of June. Only do the questions and the activities to do with the glaciation section. You do not need to do any other work. Okay, so come to the end of this PowerPoint and the end of the work that you've been expected to do. Do your best, keep in touch with your teacher, either myself or Miss Richardson. But you can ask Mr. Hayes and Mr. Kilsby as well. If you do have any questions or are stuck, like I say, just ask for some help, do your best, record what you've done, write it down, and bring that work with you to your first lesson. Thank you. Have a good summer.